Theo's excited because he's starting to get some reactions out of Alicia.
Yeah.
But then he gets a reaction that he shouldn't want, which is she literally attacks him.
Yeah.
So
she hasn't said anything for so many years.
That's weird.
Yeah, weird, but also like what
no one's
spawned that? And then later,
right?
Because she hates him.
What? Yeah, because she recognizes him at that point in time.
And she's like, "You fucking guy, are you serious?" Yeah.
He's not some random.
No.
She
knows him. That's why she freaking attacked the shit out of him. But we don't know this at that time. So the first time I read this, I was like, damn, this bitch is crazy. And, I mean, she is, but not about that.
Lilith was hearing voices that told herself that Theo is not a safe person. And I'm like, this is a little nugget that the mentally unstable person is literally telling you Theo is not who he says he is, and you should be paying attention to that. But obviously you write that off because, she has this crazy backstory too, is actually pretty, she hears voices that tell her to do things.
Stabs her in the eye.
Yeah.
It's serious. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I obviously don't stab someone, but honestly, I wouldn't expect a lesser reaction. I don't know. Because I'm like, okay, that's fair. Don't take her eyeball out, but you
probably shouldn't write.
She probably shouldn't write slut.
It's not her fault.
A painting.
Psychotherapy. Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, you're going to have lots of spoilers in The Silent Patient. So the thought is that you have already read The Silent Patient and or are okay with full spoilers. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
All right, let's get into our drink of the episode as always. I'm going to start you off. Here's a visual of what we've got going on here. A little bit of red touch to it, mostly clear. And I'm calling this the silent treatment. I felt like this was appropriate given our female main character, Alicia here, who is quite literally giving the silent treatment and is also in treatment. So I felt like the title fit. And what we have here is a little hidden maraschino cherry at the bottom, not so hidden, kind of also symbolic of the fact that some of our greatest terrors could be hidden in plain sight. But also that's delicious. Elements of this drink include fresh lime juice, gin, elderflower, and fresh brewed tea. So I steeped it and then I put it on ice. Before I put it on ice, I added a little bit of sugar and then put it on ice, added it to this drink. And so what I wanted to achieve was incorporating a tea as well, because it's based in the UK. And so in London, they have tea time all the time. It's a big part of their culture. And we've never really done that before. I've never had fresh tea, brewed tea in one of our drinks of the episode. And so what you have is actually really balanced, light beverage that incorporates lots of stuff. So I thought it would be fun and dynamic, just like our girl Alicia's painting. Yeah. So that's what we've got tonight.
It sounds lovely. Cheers.
Lots of symbolism in this drink. Very refreshing, very light. Definitely could still knock you on your ass. So there's that. You can't taste the gin very well, and because it's a botanical gin. So I think it feeds into the tea. The tea is more of a chamomile. There's other elements, lavender, to the tea that I chose. You could choose a black tea, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted something that had more floral elements to it because I thought it would complement the gin, and it does. So highly recommend this drink. I will show you, of course, on our socials how to make your own. So here we go. Silent treatment.
Yeah.
Cheers. Tonight, we're exploring The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. So whether you're reading along with us or you're just here for the book talk, we are glad you're here. First, let's just ask each other, did you let's give our star rating. And as always, I want to say that we set up our thriller episodes a little differently than our deep dives. For anybody who's just listening in to the first thriller that we're covering here, our deep dive books we cover over a span of episodes. We're going to go chapter by chapter with those. We go really in depth. Our thrillers are higher level. We go over our characters. We talk about our plot. We'll go through the parts in a synopsis. And we mostly talk about whether we figured it out, what we didn't figure out, and what was kind of just really relevant to the human condition. And I think thrillers are, because they don't take place in a fantasy setting, they're in our world. And there's just so many true to life elements to a lot of these characters. And it's always very interesting to break them out and apart and understand them a little bit better in these thriller worlds, which of course you can do in fantasy and romantasy too. Their characters have to be believable. You have to be able to relate to them. But I think thrillers in particular, because there's always this question of how can someone do such a thing and what drives them to do such a thing, quote unquote.
Right.
And I think thrillers give that space to like kind of talk through what these authors write and if we can figure it out or solve it by the end. But anyway, if you're just joining us now for our first thriller, we're happy that you're here. But I just wanted to explain a little bit of kind of how this works and what the breakdown is. So Michelle, why don't you get started and we'll go from here.
So I would give this a 4.5 to a 5.
Okay.
More leaning to a 4.5.
Riley Sager beat out the spot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed Riley Sager's book a lot more. And not this to say that this book wasn't enjoyable. It was very heavy,
Yeah.
very psychoanalytical heavy. And I do find that field fascinating and how really childhood trauma really impacts your decisions for the rest of your life, as we can see with Theo. So I really liked how there were Greek literary elements that were in place, and there's a lot of like tie-in to psychoanalysis and trauma. But a lot of the times the book got really heavy into that part. And sometimes I was just like, Theo, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, you're not a detective. So
well, no, Emily
so,
and like
yeah.
everybody. Oh God. Like there's so many characters in this book where I was just like, what is happening here? Like, yeah.
And they're all well written and
Oh yeah.
very well
Absolutely.
developed. I did like how they taught everything just ties together in the end. So I think, because if I was just going based on the story itself without the twist, I would have given it a 4. But the plot twist at the end, which I did not expect, I raised it to a 4.5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
So you didn't figure it out. Is that what we're saying?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I thought it was the brother the whole time.
Okay.
He just gave me the creeps.
I was waiting for her to
But
be
so did
exonerated.
multiple.
Like, but I still couldn't figure out
Okay.
how she was going to be exonerated, but I was really waiting for her to still not have done it somehow. And I don't know if that speaks more to me,
Yeah.
like wanting her to be innocent for my own reasons and psychologically, who knows? But I wanted her to be innocent in all this because of everything she had already been through.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I didn't see it either. I didn't predict it. I enjoyed this book. This was a 5 for me too. I thought it was on the same level of Riley Sager's book, just a very different way. I thought it was very true classic thriller writing, but advanced in the sense that our author really did his research and he masterfully crafted this world and this story and made it to where it was so weird that I couldn't figure out what part I was supposed to be holding on to, which always makes for a good thriller. I think that's what made me love The Only One Left, which is the one we read for Riley Sager. I loved that book too. And the same reason I loved Lisa Jewell's None of This Is True. Again, she tells you, and so does this author. Alex tells you right up front, like, hey, none of these people are trustworthy. Like, tells you that. And you still go into it. And that's kind of what I like, is like, I like when you already kind of know what happens. That's what I loved about None of This Is True as well, is like, you already know she's famous for the wrong reasons and like something fucked up happened. So you're just like trying to figure it out that whole time. And so I like those better than at the end something just fucked up happening. I like having something crazy in the beginning and being like, okay, how did we get here? And kind of walking through those types of thrillers. That's like the framework that I enjoy rereading. Just like people are like, giddy to read the One Room in the Inn, which I also might be giddy about and can read 10,000 times. That type of thriller is like my favorite. But anyway, let's get into it
Mhm.
and we'll talk more about it. But that was kind of my overview. Maybe I'm just an easy 5-star giver. It's probably that too. But I also thought this was well worth it. And, Goodreads can't be wrong. So many people thought that. It got picked up and purchased the rights to make a movie of. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, let's get into it and let's discuss these characters. We have our setting in London and we'll get into the plot. Take it away, Michelle.
All right, so this novel is set in London, England, and really we get most of the setting at the Grove, which is the mental institution that Alicia is at. However, there's some spots around the city and around the area that the characters visit. And then we have our three main characters. There are a bunch of other characters. Our three main characters are Alicia Berenson, who is the narrator or partial narrator when you
Mhm.
go through her diaries in the prologue. She is 33 years old when she murdered her husband, which is 6 years prior to present day main story happening. And her job occupation is she's a painter. Then her husband is Gabriel. He was 44 when he was murdered, and he was known to be graceful. He's a fashion photographer and really just Alicia's obsession. And then we have Theo Faber. He is a psychotherapist. He is the main narrator that we have present day. So most of our story comes from his perspective. And he just really wants to help Alicia tell her story. And is just
Sure he
so
does.
obsessed
Yeah.
with Alicia and how she should tell her story and she should stop this silence.
Yeah. The ending to this
So,
one,
yeah. Right, so this book begins with a prologue, and the prologues in Alicia Berenson's story is told through journal entries that are dated before the murder itself. So it's really interesting. You have to be really careful with the timelines here because you have like past and present
mhm,
occurring at the same time, and the lines kind of blur between them. So I do like how Michaelides, he just really crafts his timelines, and it's part of it's to give background, part of it is to, I feel like, to confuse you as a reader because you have all this stuff going on and you don't know what to hold on to, like you've said before. And it's prefacing what the journal's for, and it's also prefacing that she is not reliable because, she has crazy thoughts. Then she's like, the journal's not for crazy thoughts, so you're supposed to think the journal's like, you know, accurate, but which kind of is, but like also, she's not reliable. That's what. Yeah.
that's fair. And you would think
Yeah.
like a journal would be, but let's talk a little bit about our main characters. So Alicia Berenson is 33 years old when she kills her husband Gabriel 6 years before. So we're into part 1 now. And they were both artists. So he was a fashion photographer, she's a painter, and they're in the wealthy echelon, higher level, nice neighborhood in London area. And they were married for 7 years prior to the murder, and there's this talk about it was the hottest day of the year. We're talking about how this happened, and the lights were out. Alicia's found this is pretty graphic. Lights were out. Alicia's found by the fireplace. The gun is on the floor. Gabriel, her husband, is bound to a chair, and he was shot in the face multiple times.
Multiple
Yeah.
times.
Scene
Multiple
was
times.
horrific. Alicia never speaks again. Ends up happening is she ultimately gets placed at this psychiatric facility, the Grove, because they ultimately determined that she cannot withstand trial and she hasn't spoken. She literally hasn't said a word. She's ultimately sentenced to the Grove, which is a psychiatric facility versus life imprisonment because they determine or any other type of judgment that they would make in the UK. She's guilty of murder, but they can't figure out why she did it and she won't speak. And because of her mental state, the judge ultimately says she has diminished responsibility and she's admitted to the Grove. So it's similar to the what we do in the States as well. There's opportunity where your mental state is considered and there's a different judgment made to figure out what is going to happen to you versus straight up
Right.
incarceration or whatever it may be. One thing that she did do without speaking, of course, is she's a painter, which I established a little bit ago. And She paints herself the day of the murder, standing before an easel. Her body is naked, it's in detail, and her paintbrush is dipped in red paint, looks like blood. Her face is blank, her mouth is open, and she is mute. And so the way that I kind of saw this as the book cover was interesting to me. Uh, I looked at it as what the book cover looks like. So I don't know about you, Michelle, but that's kind of how I depicted this in my head. But it's also based off of Greek mythology. It's off Alcestis, which is Greek mythology. Alcestis in the story sacrifices herself for her husband. And this is kind of part of Greek mythology that we know that she's basing her painting off of. And of course, our author is Greek as well. So him incorporating Greek mythology is kind of a nod to his own history and where he's from. So that's kind of cool. So we know she's guilty of murder. And for me, I was like, is she? When I was reading this. Yeah, she is. And due to her mental state, right, she gets put into this mental institute, the Grove. 6 years go by, and we then start to learn about another character, Theo Faber, who's introduced. He is a psychotherapist, and this was really interesting to me that he talks about why he becomes a psychotherapist. And it was definitely a red flag at the beginning for me, where he's just like, oh, I became a psychotherapist because I was fucked up and I wanted to know more about myself. So I wanted to study psychology because I wanted to heal myself. But the way it's written is like very eloquent. And one of the quotes is actually, the real motivation was purely selfish. I was on a quest to help myself. I believe the same is true for most people who go into mental health. We are drawn to this profession because we are damaged and we study psychology to heal ourselves. And the way I was like, maybe, but also let's hope not. Let's hope that's not necessarily
Yeah,
true for everybody because, yeah, that's
I I've been around people in the mental health profession, and I've heard this a lot, that a lot of psychologists or people enter psychology or mental health because they're fucked up and they want to know why and how to fix it. But like also kind of want to help people, but really it's like more self-serving. So I have heard that. There's obviously those people that who to go into it because they just want to help others.
yeah,
But I've definitely heard like I want to help others, but because I was really fucked up as a kid, so I really want to help others and kind of find out why. So
okay
apparently it's a
then.
common in the field.
Interesting. If anyone knows more about this, feel free to comment below.
Hmm.
Okay. So Faber grows up again in this kind of ridiculously terrible household. He's anxious, unpredictable, abusive
His dad
father.
sucks.
Yeah. Mother is an enabler. She's complicit in what goes on. At 18, he goes to university and he just still doesn't feel like really free of his father who controlled him. He tries to take his own life and he finds help from a psychotherapist through his trauma that he's trying to work through. So ultimately he decides that he's going to become a psychotherapist too. And he ends up at the Grove, we think, at some point that he's just there for his
We think.
profession. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
just cuz
yeah, just
he gave
cuz.
up a good job just
Yes.
to be here.
Right.
Place is falling apart and probably going to lose its funding.
Right. So he ends up being greeted by Yuri, who's the head psychiatric nurse. And Yuri moved there from Latvia 7 years ago. And there's Stephanie Clark, who's introduced, manager of the Grove. And he's got to go to these community meetings. And he meets Professor Meades, who runs the group sessions and is basically like the head of the Grove. And all of a sudden, Theo is like determined to take Alicia as a patient. And Alicia, at this point, this is years into this and she hasn't spoken a word since all this happened. So this is like 6 years after the murder has occurred and she is like heavily sedated on drugs. She's not all there. And all of a sudden now she is going to be Theo's patient and we're just like, "Oh, good for Theo. He wants to help her out. Everything's going to be great." We find out that Diomedes is the one who is the deciding vote for his interview. There's a lot of talk about how he sees himself in Diomedes as well. And then there's this talk about how, again, there's not a lot of funding. They're not sure how long this is going to last. And Theo tells Diomedes that he wants to help Alicia, and they're introduced. So we'll see what happens here. Right. Yeah. He does end up getting to meet her, and he just takes notes. The first session isn't anything crazy, but what really matters in the end of part 1 is we get to meet Kathy, which is Theo's wife. This is important. So she is an actress, we find out, and he's talking to other actors. We find out how they met, and they were both dating other people when they met, but they were drawn to each other. Kathy's American. She grew up in Manhattan, and she's a dual citizen because her mother's English, and they hooked up, and then they broke things off with whoever they were dating before. Okay, fine. Write this off. I don't think anything of it. I mean, they're not married, whatever, I just was like, okay. I think all this does is say that she's human and there's fallibility for both sides, that no one's perfect. That was kind of what
Right.
I took away from that initially. All of a sudden, Kathy brings life to Theo's otherwise pretty much dark world. I took this as, and she kind of brings him joy. So they immediately move in together in December, and they're married by April, but no parents are invited.
I saw that.
Huh?
I definitely saw that as a red flag for Theo, because I'm like, I'm a firm believer, like, you should not be in a relationship, especially when you're young, but you shouldn't be in a relationship if they're the one filling your cup. You need to find someone else, something internally to fill your cup
Oh, yeah.
and find
Yes.
joy in something yourself. You can't expect
Another
other
person to
people
be
to
that.
fix you,
Yep.
which is kind of right, which is what he does. I'm like, oh, this is why we're obsessed with women. Because we
Associate
just
our
want
value.
to
Yeah.
obsess,
Mhm.
yeah, with someone else.
Well, and
So I was
Alicia's
like,
kinda
well, red
like that
flag.
with her husband too, way too
Mhm.
obsessed with him.
Oh yeah.
And it's yeah, same type of problem where
Hmm.
Alicia's poured everything into Gabriel, and he's her entire light and entire world, and that's never good. You need to have a balance of
Oh.
where you find yourself somewhere in between there.
Mhm. Yeah. So that leads us into part two. So part two begins with Alicia Berenson's diary. And really, what we're getting from these diary entries is that Alicia has a past because her mother died in a very tragic accident, which is led to believe it was deemed an accident. However, she
Mm.
was driving straight into a wall without stopping and like pressing on the gas with Alicia strapped into the car intentionally. So this gives Alicia a lot of mental issues just because, did she intend to kill me? Why was I in the car? Why did she kill herself? That sort of thing. Even though it was deemed an accident, there was a lot of key things that show that it was intentional
Yeah,
here.
dark.
So, and then it also very, very dark. And then she, it questions her own madness. I think Gabriel feeds into that too, like questioning like her sanity because her mother was clearly there was some mental health issues that were in the family. And then her father also took his life too.
Yeah, it's dark.
And it was, yeah. So lots of
And Gabriel's
issues
kind
there.
of a
Her and her
dick,
father didn't have a great
so
relationship either. A little bit kind of holds that over her. It's like, well, your family's kind of crazy, so why don't you write your thoughts down so we don't like, do anything nuts, because it's not okay that you wanted to grieve and like when things happened with your family, you were just a mess, which understandable.
yes,
I think that's an understandable reaction
agree.
if, your mother tried to kill herself with you in the car and then your dad like hangs himself. You know, I think
Not
that's
looking
fair
good.
reaction.
Yeah.
And then we get into Theo's storyline. So,
Also not
present
great.
time in terms of the story. No, no. So he wants to get Alicia unmedicated, or at least like slowly withdraw her medication, because the only way he thinks that he's going to talk to her is if she's not a zombie, which fair. And there's another patient there called Elif, and she's like an instigator.
Yeah.
She's one of those patients that speaks her mind very vocally, very grotesquely. there's, with all the patients, there's access to medication, and Elif becomes really suspicious in that. But Christian, which is a psychiatrist here, actually worked with Theo at his last location. So they have some past history, and the way Christian's like condescending the entire time really like rubbed me the wrong way, because, he was just kind of a douche the whole time to Theo. And of course, you're reading it from Theo's perspective, so you think, Theo's like the hero here.
Yeah.
So you feel bad for Theo and how he's being treated and whatnot. Lies, all lies.
Yeah.
So Christian does agree to lessen the medication by like 5 milligrams that Alicia is taking. And Theo was like, great, we can have a conversation. Theo's excited because he's starting to get some reactions out of Alicia.
Yep.
But then he gets a reaction that he shouldn't want, which is she literally attacks him.
Yeah.
And it takes 4 nurses to hold Alicia down, and then Christian has to sedate her. So, but he ultimately is like, a reaction's a reaction. Like, that's good. Like, this is a good thing. She actually felt something. Because at this point, they're like, she doesn't feel anything.
Yeah.
So,
she hasn't said anything
I was like,
for so many years.
That's weird.
Yeah, weird, but also like what
no one's
spawned that? And then later.
Right.
Because she hates him.
What? Yeah, because she recognizes him at that point in time.
And she's like, you fucking guy, are you serious? Yeah.
He's not some random.
No.
Like,
She knows him. That's why she freaking attacked the shit out of him. But we don't know this at that time. So the first time I read this, I was like, damn, this bitch crazy. And, I mean, she is, but not about that. Like, she was right about that.
Yep, she was. What we also learn in this part is Theo and Kathy do not have a great relationship. Mainly, Kathy has been seeing someone with the email address badboy22.
Yeah, she's cheating with badboy22.
So, and to find emails like that would be horrific.
Oh yeah.
To think about, like, because his job is not easy, because being a mental health professional, you have to kind of shoulder a lot of grief and trauma from these people and try not to absorb it. So it's really heavy work. And then to come home and to just find like your wife's laptop open to like very explicit emails to some random and about meeting them, I'm just like, that would be horrific. And again, this is building like, we should care about Theo.
Yeah.
Theo's sad. He has a sad story. Feel bad for him. And he spirals. Obviously, I don't blame him for spiraling because this is awful.
Yeah.
Being cheated on is not
and it's a trigger for
thing.
him too, because he is obsessed with his wife. He loves her so much. And this event for him is just like, can't be happening. And he needs to like, he can't process this.
He's never been chosen because he's never been chosen. He's never been good enough. And now he thinks he's good enough. And now he's resorting back to like when he was like 7 and his dad beat the shit out of him because his dad didn't deem him good enough. And he spirals, he drinks, he smokes weed, which is apparently a big, Kathy's perception of smoking weed is wild because she like gaslights him when she finds out. I'm just like, girl, you're literally like taking someone else's dick and you're gonna say you can't smoke weed. Like, I was just like, why? Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. He just continues to spiral. And the thing is, he gets really wasted, and then he goes and sees his old therapist and kind of like trauma dumps to her. And she's like, you need to value yourself and you need to get out of this marriage because, friend, this isn't healthy. And he's like, yeah, you're right. It's not healthy. And he gets home and he's like, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm like, you bitch.
Yeah.
You what? You're just going to sit there. You're going to sit there and stew in this for forever and not confront her about it because we can get past it. We can just get past it. It's like
part of pride too. Theo clearly has a problem acknowledging truth.
Right, because he has to accept.
Yeah.
If he addresses like you're cheating, then he has to accept that is actually a thing that's happening, and not be like all delulu in his head. Like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe they haven't met. Maybe, whatever rationalizations going on in his head, which is not helping him. But yeah, you just feel here, you feel bad for him. Part 2, you're supposed to feel bad for him. And yeah, that goes away pretty quickly. Or not quickly, but that goes away. But here,
Yeah.
you're supposed to feel bad for him. And then at the very end of this part, Theo goes and finds Elif, who Elif and Alicia actually got in a fight when Alicia first got to the Grove. Elif was hearing voices that told herself that Theo is not a safe person. And I'm like, this is a little nugget that the mentally unstable person is literally telling you Theo is not who he says he is, and you should be paying
Yeah.
attention to that. But obviously you write that off because, she like killed her sister and her mother and has like this crazy backstory too, is actually pretty, she hears voices that
Yeah.
tell her to do things. So, but before the reason why they got in a fight, Elif and Alicia, was because Elif had asked her if her husband deserved to be killed and how he looked after she shot him, which obviously Alicia then attacked her.
Yeah.
So
She's like,
yeah.
bitch, what you say? Yeah.
Right. Then to uncover more of what's going on, Theo goes into like detective mode, and Carmen Sandiego over here tries to figure out like his the background of like all his family members and like the relatives to both Gabriel and Alicia, and he goes down this rabbit trail, and the entire time I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. What are you doing?
There's a yeah, you're a psychotherapist. You're not a
yeah,
detective.
You're not a detective. And like he's doing this all outside of work, to be fair. He's going to
Yeah.
places, like he's going and checking in on things and like knocking at people's doors and shit. And I'm like, sir, what are we doing?
Why?
And why are we so obsessed with this singular patient? Is it you just want to like check the
Does he
box
not have any other
of
patients? The whole time he's just focused on this one patient. I'm like, do you not have any other patients? But here, so I'm just gonna kind of go over who these characters are. So we have Max Berenson, who is Gabriel's brother. And Gabriel's brother works for a law firm. He's a lawyer, and he is very icky. He's very icky. His wife is his secretary, and he was obsessed with Alicia. And it was pretty aggressive with
Max
Theo,
as a
which fair. He just
character.
came to us
What were your thoughts on Max as a character?
like in his development, or just like him as a person, because he was pretty gross.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought, especially when we get like Alicia's journal entries, which comes up that, he like kissed her and was like, but don't tell. I'm going to kiss my brother's wife, but don't tell him anything. It's like, what are you doing? You can't just do that and not expect consequences. And yeah, Max was painted as someone who was obsessed with what his older brother had and wanted to be his older brother, even though they weren't biological brothers. But Max thought Gabriel was special, and everyone thought Gabriel was special.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel bad for him, but then again, you're like, you're a grown ass man, so
Right.
get
Where's
over
the
it.
line?
Mm-hmm. Right. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, same. And I also just thought that all these characters, I just felt like all of them were so untrustworthy. They all had these like layers
yeah.
of oiliness to them. And what I mean by that is like,
Yeah.
there's something like an itch you can't scratch. There's like something that you're trying to like point to that's like not directly in your face, morally completely bankrupt, but definitely on the edge of this is just not great people in general, like any of them.
Right.
Like there's something
Right.
off about the fact that Kathy can sit there and yell at her husband when she's over here doing X, Y, and Z. The fact that Gabriel literally takes everything bad about Alicia's family and uses it against her. These are not things you go to jail over, but they're definitely not things good people do to people they care about either. So it's like,
Right.
what there's this this moral dilemma with all of these characters, and I think that's what makes it interesting. And Max is in the same boat for this. He's
Right.
another character
I think what
that
solidifies,
you don't
yeah,
go and kiss your brother's wife. You don't go to jail for that, but you also don't do
no,
that. Like, so it's
yeah.
like there's yeah.
And the fact that his wife was like kind of afraid of him and afraid of like talking about things with him,
Mhm.
especially about Alicia, was, you know,
Red
it rubbed me
flag.
the wrong way. It's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have Paul Rose, who lives in Cambridge, and this is Alicia's cousin. And they actually grew up together because after Alicia's mother died, Alicia and her father lived with Paul Rose and his mother. It was not a very good environment.
Oh,
The way Theo and Paul like first interact, and Paul like literally hits him over the head and is like, "Well, you were on my property, so you're snooping. Why were you snooping?" And like at first, like Paul just seems like kind of like a country bumpkin, and it's like he kind of wants to help, but you
oh.
know, he has like his crazy mother,
Yeah.
and
He's
there's like
not
he
my
was a little
favorite.
bit more complex. Like I almost no, and but like think about it. Paul literally found Alicia's dad's body
Yeah, he's not
hanging
okay.
in the attic. No, like how as a child,
Yeah.
like how that's hard to process. And the last time he saw Alicia was at Vernon, who's the father's name, Vernon's funeral. And but he was like, I don't think she killed him. Him meaning Gabriel.
Yeah.
She wasn't a violent person. So he's like validating
Her. Yeah.
Alicia
Mhm.
more because but then also like you don't know from Paul's point of view that he actually has a gambling problem and was, you
Again,
know,
don't go to
asking
jail
for
for
money
that,
later
but
on and
again,
yeah.
there's each of these characters has a moral flaw to them, so you can't
Mhm.
really trust any of them. None of them. And this is
Right.
where you struggle, where
No.
you're trying to figure out, which is great because all of us have flaws and things like that. But this compass
Mhm.
of trying to figure out who's our like good character. I don't know that any of these people can
None of
be
them. All of
none.
them are awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every single person in this story, like not even like the nursing staff, like Yuri, you're like, oh, he's great, but he's actually selling drugs to Elif to
Yeah.
make more money. Like, you know, like every single person in this story is bad for
Mhm.
whatever reason and different reason. But that leads into John Felix. So John Felix was supposedly Alicia's best friend. He owns the gallery that Alicia gave her artwork to.
Right.
He is very Jean Felix is very pretentious, and he his relationship with Alicia, even though he like doesn't say it or didn't like to tell it to Theo, is very transactional because he was obsessed with Alicia. Alicia gave him business with displaying her paintings, and his business grew when her paintings were there
Like took
and
off.
she
Yeah.
was displayed as a murderer. Yeah, so very transactional relationship. And again, we have John Felix, you know, talks about her painting and shows Theo all of her paintings and the different ones that I think there were four that he went over. But what's really important here, also, Jean Felix did not like Gabriel. He thought Gabriel was icky,
Yeah.
like everyone else in the story.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, but, you know, then we get Alicia's perspective, who really gives light onto how these characters actually are. You know, Paul asked for $20,000 for because of gambling, and she was actually about to dump John Felix. And the reason why she didn't actually dump him and like try to move on, because Gabriel told her that she needs to, because he's weirdly obsessed with her.
Which
And
I don't
she's
know
like,
why he
okay, I'll
cares.
listen to you. Right.
He's out here
Because
doing his own thing.
he's right. And I think because Gabriel is just he's used to being the spotlight.
Yeah.
He's more famous than her, right?
And he wants that to
And
continue.
this is Alicia. Yes, and Alicia's getting successful. And Jean Felix is kind of a catalyst for that because
Yeah.
that's where she's displaying her paintings. So he wants to keep her down
Hmm.
to make him feel better. honestly.
Yeah.
And Jean-Felix was like, please don't do this, you know, let's have a proper goodbye if we're going to do this. And Jean-Felix actually takes her to the play, the Alcestis,
Yeah.
which, you know, inspired the painting because she really connected with that character. And then Theo gets all this information from all these characters, and he goes back to Alicia to talk to her about it, like about how she went to the gallery, how he talked to these people, and he decided, because Jean-Felix suggested it, to allow her to paint, which made her smile. So he's getting a reaction out of her, which he's like, you know, holding on to. And you know, he had to get permission, but they ultimately allow her to paint, and Theo watched her paint over the next few days. She painted the grove, which was burning to the ground, and Alicia and Theo are in the painting, but Theo can't place whether he's rescuing Alicia or throwing her in the flames. So that's how
The way
it's
I
like,
wanted to
okay.
see this painting, like, I'm hoping that this
Right.
movie comes to fruition because I wanna see these paintings so bad.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because there's this power, like all of her paintings seem very passionate because they're talking about a lot of traumatic things
Yeah.
that are happening. And obviously Theo's throwing her in the flames. Like Theo's not rescuing her.
Yeah.
He likes to think of himself as a rescuer, but he's not.
But the fact that he
And
can't
then the
tell
last, nope. No.
or refuses
For
to
someone
tell,
who went through like, yeah, he had a bad childhood
is that all?
and he's delusional. No, he's just delusional from it. And then the last part of this part 2, we are introduced to the stalker, which Alicia apparently had a stalker. Barbie Hellman is the neighbor that called the police when Gabriel was murdered. And she was like, oh, yeah, there was a stalker. You should, you know, I come to my house and I'll tell you all about the stalker and who it is and all that. So we're introduced to this idea that maybe there's another person who
Yeah.
killed
Mhm.
Gabriel. So since Alicia has been painting, Elif, being the wonderful person that she is, decided to write the word slut on her painting, which, you know, wasn't elicited a very negative response. Mainly Alicia like attacked her, and Theo's supposed to stop their psychotherapy
I
sessions
mean,
because
she
she's
doesn't just
obviously
attack
violent and
her,
can't handle this.
she stabs her in the eye.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yes.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah. Which do I obviously don't stab someone, but honestly, I wouldn't expect a lesser reaction. I don't know. Cause I'm like, okay, you know, that's fair. She don't take her eyeball out, but like, you know,
You probably shouldn't write
she
slut again
probably shouldn't
across her
write
painting,
slut.
it's not her
Yeah.
fault, you know, that
A
this
painting.
psychotherapist is
Exactly.
obsessed with her and wants to meet with her every hours of his shift, like,
Yeah. It's not her fault.
yeah,
Why are you so obsessed with me?
she's jelly.
So, yeah. So Theo has to stop the sessions and then they have one last session and Alicia gives Theo her journal. So you're supposed
What
to
did you
have like
think of this
all the
after the
information
fact? That she gives you this
that
journal? Her journal.
so obviously before I was like, "Oh, you're trying to give all the answers. Your answers are in the journal.
Right.
Your
Mhm.
answers are right there." But honestly, like going back and thinking about it, her giving him her journal is like a power move. It's I know who you are. This is all of my personal information that you're trying to dig out of me to not frame yourself as someone innocent or to frame yourself as someone innocent, but you're not.
Right.
So it was a power move for her to say, you're not in control of this narrative. I am.
Yeah. I think too, it's like,
What'd you think?
so we know she snaps and she's violent with cause. So my thought is that she
Exactly.
maybe she realizes in these sessions that he's like Delulu completely and has no understanding of who he is either. And it's just like, hello, hello.
Well, during these sessions, he's just talking. He's
Yeah,
just talking about himself
of
and why
course.
he's obsessed with her and why they connect on like a personal level and
Yeah.
because their only interaction was during the murder.
Yeah.
Their only interaction ever
Ever.
was during that
Yeah.
murder. So he's like trying to connect with her, and the entire time I bet he's just like in her brain, she's like, "Oh my god, shut the fuck up," like the entire time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, part 3, we start to get more of this feeling of unease, especially with Alicia. We kind of go through some different journal entries where she's talking about the stalker. She's warned by Jean Felix to not trust the people that are close to her. She tells Gabriel that she has a stalker. He doesn't believe her. Red flag
of
city
course not.
for Gabriel. Like, your wife tells you she has a stalker, and your first response is that you don't believe her. What the what?
Mhm.
What is going on? Like, what is going on?
What the what?
Yeah. So she sees the stalker again, and this is where her Barbie comes in, the neighbor. She starts to write about Barbie, and she tells Barbie about the stalker, and that Barbie, her neighbor, believes her, and which is great. So we like Barbie, even though Barbie's a little off too. She's a
A little bit.
little off. Gabriel then tells her, "Oh, well, you should see a doctor because you're hallucinating." Like, the fuck? Yeah. So she goes unwillingly to go see this doctor, and Dr. West is like, "Oh, I've talked to you about this before. You've become paranoid." And then he like prescribes her this medication. And she's like, "What the fuck?" Like, and so she didn't actually take it, but at this point I'm like out with Gabriel because what are you doing to your wife? Like, now you're making sure she gets medicated.
Mhm.
You're, like, controlling her entirely. You don't want her to succeed. You're trying to keep her down basically as much as possible. And luckily, Alicia's smart enough to kind of weigh in and see that there's some issues here. So her paranoia starts to grow, and she thinks that it's Max that's, like, messing with her. So ultimately, she confronts Max, but he denies it, and she slaps him, and she thinks that the stalker is, like, inside the house at this point, like, the house that she goes to visit Max. So, trying to figure this out and piece it together. So then we find out how some of these paths start to cross in part 4, and
Right.
Theo's reading this journal, and remember that the timeline of what you're assuming is the timeline for Theo and Kathy and for what's happening in the present with Alicia are not necessarily the same, and past and present is very much intertwined in this book. So as you're reading it, you're thinking you're in one place, but you're really not. And things start to kind of unravel here as we go through some of these parts. So Theo's reading her journal. It's reading that there's more questions here than he realized, and he decides to talk to Dr. West because why not? We're going and talking to all these people.
He's Christian.
Let's go to it.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out that he's Christian and treated Alicia before. So now Alicia's being treated by Christian, and actually previously was restrained by Christian, who is actually turns out to be Dr. West. So we find out that this is the guy who had been treating her all these years ago, and
Illegally.
right,
Illegally
legally
treating
treating
her.
her. Correct.
Under the table.
Yes. And he tells him about the journal, and he initially starts to deny it, but then he starts to defend himself. He's like, "Oh, well, I was friends with Gabriel and he asked me to help out, and so, you know, I did the right thing because she was really having a psychotic episode, and she had all these suicidal ideations, and she would never actually commit suicide though because she's a narcissist. So she's just a lost cause, and that's my clinical thoughts on this." And the way I was just like, okay, so we're just going to like deny the fact that we are super unethical. We're just going to like let that ship sail. That's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. This is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. She's, she's mentally unwell, so I was doing her a favor. And Gabriel. I
Yeah.
was doing them both a favor.
So let me kind of we veer away from Alicia for a little bit, and we go into Theo's personal life with Kathy. And we see that she's meeting up with this man in the park. And in the meantime, he's also tracking down Alicia's friends and talking to them about Max and his relationship with Alicia. All these things because what's happened is he initially spoke to some of these people, but didn't have the full story from the journal because he didn't have the journal. Now he does have the journal. So he's going back and he's saying, "Hey, why didn't you tell me about X, Y, and Z?" And,
Right.
just trying to get these stories aligned in, with John Felix, Paul, Max, each one of the different people that he's finding out more information about. Theo speaks to Alicia about how her father, what is this? Theo speak to about the incident, how her father,
Committed psychic murder. That's what he calls it. Psychic murder.
her father?
Because because he tells her,
Forgot
why
about this.
didn't Alicia die instead? So right, it says before, the night Vernon was drunk and yelled, why didn't Alicia die instead? That's when Alicia declared that her dad just killed her. And then talks to Alicia about it.
Oh, talking about how the mom died. Yeah, that's fucked up. Okay. 3, 2, 1. There's parts of her journal that talk about how Alicia basically died to her father. Her dad had just killed her. And you see this parallel later where Gabriel had just killed her too. And so Vernon, who's her father, ends up getting drunk and is like, why didn't Alicia die instead? Which, like, what the fuck, first of all. But he's talking about
That's your child.
his wife, and then he's saying he wished his kid had died instead. Like, how do you even, what the hell is that?
How do you live like that as a
Right.
child? Like, your dad once you're dead.
Instead.
Like, that's awful.
Yeah. And so Theo talks
Alicia
about,
never stood a chance.
no.
She never stood a
There was
chance in
no way.
life.
So going on, Alicia, Theo is talking about how her father basically commits what's called psychic murder. Her identity was so wrapped up in like what her family and other thought of her, but the fact of like him wishing her dead instead is just, yeah, not great. Alicia ends up starting to talk in one of these sessions, and she is talking about all these things that she wants him to understand. So she starts to talk, and she says she starts talking because she wants Theo to understand. John Felix had visited during this last journal entry she has. They talk about Lydia and Paul and her mother and the summer that she died. And the next day they talk about Gabriel's death. So at this point, she's finally like starting to talk. She's painting in the studio, she said, and she sees a man in her studio and he has a knife. He drags her into the house and locks her in. The man had taken Gabriel's gun but delayed killing Alicia. Gabriel wasn't supposed to be home until 10, and the man tied her to a chair. The man talked constantly until Gabriel came home. Then he ambushes Gabriel and shot him in the head 6 times, tosses the gun on the floor, and leaves without saying a word. So she explains what happens, and Theo's like, he
I'll believe you.
wasn't tied to a chair, and he was shot 5 times. So what happened here? She finally tells a story of what happened that night, which is what Theo supposedly wanted this whole time, to exonerate her. But then he was like, wait a minute, some of this still doesn't add up. He goes to Diomedes and is like, I need some vision because this is getting heated and I don't know what could go on and I need some help here. Diomedes is like, yeah, she's probably lying, but there's more here to this. And he thinks that Alicia's manipulating him and that Theo must force her to confront the truth. So then Theo, remember...
Meaning Theo must confront the truth.
Yeah. So then remember, Theo, by the way, is following his wife because she's cheating and he knows. So outside of work, he's a very busy guy. He's following Kathy to meet this guy again. Theo realizes that the man has a wife because he follows him and her and then realizes, oh, he has a wife. Great. Alicia now overdoses. She ends up taking a whole bottle of pills. So we jump back and forth. We don't realize that we're jumping back and forth in time, but we are jumping back and forth in time. And now we speed up to Alicia, who tries to kill herself again. And then Christian's framing Yuri and all these, the Christians lying. There's all, these people, it's a hot mess, okay? Yuri is giving drugs to Elif, which we talked about earlier. And the police came and he gives a statement and Yuri ends up as he's a drug dealer too. So there's just all kinds of fucked up with this whole staff. There's nothing going right here. Max ends up coming to the Grove to demand to know what happened to Alicia. And, he's like, I hold you responsible. My poor girl, Alicia. And all of this, meanwhile, Alicia just like took the drugs of her own free will and made this choice. So then bounces back again. This is heated discussion. And then we bounce again in time, but we don't really realize this at the time. We follow Theo again, and now he's watching his wife's lover's house over multiple days. So he's stalking his wife's lover's house. He hides in the garden,
Mm-hmm.
but the women entered. This is the first time Theo had come face to face with Alicia Berenson. Okay, so
Yep.
now we're
And
like,
that's
what
yeah.
the fuck is going on?
Right here, I'm like, timelines. Oh my gosh. So anything Theo was talking about with Kathy happened like 6-7 years prior.
Yes.
And
And he's
Theo
like
with
talking about
Alicia
it.
is the present.
Yeah, but we're reading it as it's also the present. So it was
Right.
like, what the fuck? Yeah.
And then Alicia's journal is also in the past at the same time
Yes.
where Alicia and Theo's story intertwine.
Correct.
So that twist, I was like, whoa, okay. Theo's the stalker. Great. But why?
Yeah.
But obviously, yeah, it's not targeted at Alicia per se.
No,
It's
no, no.
more
So like, what the fuck
targeted
happened?
at
Yeah, you're
Gabriel.
still trying to figure out what
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
So part 5 is the truth. You're trying, now we have the truth, and we have Alicia Berenson's diary, and this is February 23rd. So this is present day. This isn't a past journal. She just wrote this, and she writes that Theo just left and that she recognized him, and he had told her, I want to help you. I want to help you to see clearly. And he had
Diary.
told her this when he first met her at the Grove. So she lied about the way Gabriel died because she recognized him, Theo. Theo had grabbed her wrist and stuck a needle in her vein. So when she OD'd, opioids were shoved in her mouth, but really there was a tiny, tiny hole in her vein because he was trying to kill her too.
Yep.
So that night so now she's like, you know what? I'm writing all this down so Theo doesn't get away with it because this isn't fair. So that night when Gabriel got home, Theo tied him to the chair. Alicia and Gabriel were back to back. Theo makes Gabriel decide either he dies or Alicia dies. And this was a test to see how much he loved her. And Gabriel, that son of a bitch, he counts down from 10, and Gabriel finally says, I don't want to die. Instead of saying, I love you, I don't want to die. I was like, what? This whole time? So, and then Theo like shoots the gun in the air, right?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to like create this like psychological thing going on in Gabriel's head that she's dead. But Theo tells Alicia about the affair, then tells her she's better off dead. Then he shoots the ceiling. Alicia remains silent, but she's alive. As he's like blubbering mess.
It's a psychic death for her.
Yes. So, and she says, I remain silent. How could I talk? Gabriel had sentenced me to death. The dead don't talk. And Alicia quietly untied herself, grabbed the gun, faced Gabriel, and he was like, oh, good, you're alive. And she faced the truth. Her father put in her head that she didn't deserve to live, and she shot him 5 times in the head.
She sure did.
So she did do it. She did do it. She was not innocent.
Nope. But think about it. She had already been rejected by her own father. And then in the person that she was most loved, most obsessed with, who's supposed to protect her, who had actually been drugging her under the table with a doctor,
manipulating
her, all of these things, had been betraying her for so long that this is like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and she just snaps. She would definitely legit be on an episode of Snapped if this were real life. But thank goodness it's not.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then, but that doesn't get Theo off the hook. Theo isn't an innocent party here either. So he didn't believe Alicia. Right. Well, he didn't believe Alicia would kill Gabriel. He just wanted to show her that Gabriel didn't love her.
Right.
So she could build a new life. So he's like still trying to play innocent. Obviously, he's like, I don't believe he's mad that Gabriel's dead because, he's been screwing his wife. But he's like, I didn't know she was unstable, or he wouldn't have pushed her. And he took the job at the Grove to help free her. So again, he's just like,
This good
I'm the
guy.
hero
Yeah.
here.
I'm all
Yeah.
good. I didn't
No.
do anything
No.
bad. Okay.
But when Theo realized that Alicia recognized him, he was like, nope, she's gone. I got to kill her and frame Christian for this because,
Christian
there's
too.
enough
Yeah, there's enough
evidence here.
evidence to blame him.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Well, there's enough evidence in the journal.
Yeah.
So he tried to go back for the diary and he couldn't find it. So he was obviously like frantic trying to figure it out. And then the Grove, like, obviously because of all this that's going on, he took early retirement. He suggested Theo gets his job ultimately, but they're closing the Grove. Instead, they're opening a more cost-effective psychiatric service and want Theo to run it. Good for him.
Right.
And then you come to find out that him and Kathy are still married. Last year, they moved to Surrey to live in his childhood home. Come to find out, Theo and Kathy are still married. Last year, they had moved to Surrey to live in his childhood home, and he's like, this is nice. I thought I'd be depressed, but this is nice. But Kathy hasn't been working much. She's actually become depressed and kind of like a potato. He suggested Kathy talk to a therapist, but she's not. She's also not talking. She doesn't want to talk to anyone. And he's just like, I did all this to keep Kathy, and he's completely lost her. Well, no shit. You lost her before this whole thing. The fact that she was cheating on you means you lost her.
Her
and then
lover was
murdered
by his wife, and
his
she
wife
blames herself.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Right.
For this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
wait.
I hope this.
You should keep it in your pants. I mean,
no, but like I also
not
wonder, like,
party?
we don't find out, but I would love to know, like, where's Kathy at the end of this? Because we don't really know. But she's depressed, and then her husband that she cheated on is now behind bars because he tried to kill the wife of the guy that got murdered. Like, Kathy's having a day.
Yeah.
She's having a life. Good Lord.
Right. And then the book ends with Inspector Allen coming to Theo's house, and they talk about Jean-Felix. And Jean-Felix was apparently inspecting a painting that Alicia had made which is the one that Elif wrote Slut on. And she had wedged her journal in the back to make sure someone found it. So she ended up trusting Jean-Felix in the end. And he read Alicia's last journal entry. And that's it. That's how it ends.
Yep.
Everyone sucks in this book.
Yeah.
Everyone's awful.
Yeah.
In this book.
Really are. So that wraps up our book. We don't really get a firm answer as to where it happens with Alicia, but we already know she committed the murder. So we know she more or less is going to stay in one of the facilities, and that'll be where she lives out her life.
Right.
But she did survive, which is good. But there's a movie adaptation that could happen. The rights were bought for this book back in 2019. However, it hasn't been made yet, and we're not sure like what the reasoning is for sure as to why it hasn't been adapted just yet. But the rights were purchased by Pitt's Plan B. He owns a production company called Plan B, and Annapurna, which is another development production company. So they own it. They own the rights. Somebody's going to make it at some point. Sometimes when this happens, they don't end up making the film. They buy the rights and they hold them, and they just didn't make it yet. I'm hoping that's not true here, and they just haven't. 2019 was right before COVID, so who knows what went on before that time, and maybe they just haven't gotten around back to deciding to adapt it. Alex Michaelides was set up to be the writer of the screenplay, which is really unheard of. The author usually doesn't write the screenplay, so I found that to be interesting, and I guess we'll see if that ever pans out. So looking forward to see if that works out, and we'll stay tuned to see what happens there. But we do know that the rights were purchased, and maybe it'll never get made because it's been so long, but maybe they're just waiting for the right time, cast, and what have you, and to get it into production. So that's what we have on it.
All right. Well, that leads to our mystery Q&A. These questions haven't been shared with either of us prior to asking.
You had said before, Michelle, in us talking, that you have an idea for a book.
Oh.
What book would you write, and how many would it be? A series? What would we expect from something that you would want to write?
So when I was in college, I started a fantasy series, and I got 40,000 words in, which is
Wow,
it's a lot.
that is a lot.
So I started the series, but that's like nothing compared to a fantasy book. That's like a third of the way through. But and then I just, got busy with college and then life, and I never picked it back up. I probably don't want to pick it back up. That was like let's see, that was in 2014 when I was writing that. So I was like for sophomore in college.
Mm,
So that was over a decade ago. Probably don't want to read it.
that's fair.
But I really enjoyed the characters that I was writing. So it was like I really like mixing Greek mythology into books, and I wanted to make this into a series. It had a lot to do with the underworld and how there were these like reapers, like grim reapers that came and like took lives, but they had like this purpose. And obviously, like there was a human girl, and but she has like a mixed blood, and has all these weird powers because why
Cool.
not? Yeah, so I really liked the Greek mythology aspect. I also tried to start a book. I've actually tried to start a couple of books.
Really? I didn't
And
know this.
I think this is like my ADHD that I'll start a project and not finish it.
Yeah.
I had another book about sirens
Wasn't that Carissa
and
Broadbent's, like, number one piece of advice for aspiring authors is, like, finish the book? She's like, "Yeah, I
yeah,
just
no,
tell
I've
them to finish the book first, and then we'll worry about the rest later, like, just finish the book." And I was like,
mhm,
"Damn, okay. That's funny."
yeah, never did that. So then I was like, well, maybe I'm not finishing these because it's fantasy, and maybe like fantasy is something I enjoy but not something I'm good at writing. Like maybe I'm just not at that caliber. So I started writing I don't know if I'd call it a romance. It was kind of a commentary on like education and like through a teacher's perspective, but this teacher like goes through like a lot of trauma in
Hmm.
terms of like the classroom
So, like, a novel?
and in terms of like home relationships. Yeah, just like a regular novel,
Mhm.
fiction novel.
Yeah.
So, but then I was writing that while I was, let's see, a year postpartum.
Mm. In your
So
feelings.
then just got busy. Yeah, then just got busy with life. So it's a note in my phone because I would write as as things were coming to me when I was like, as you know, when I was a work from home mom, so I was always on the go. I couldn't actually sit down at my laptop. So it's a note on my phone. I still have it tabbed, so maybe I'll pick it up again.
Okay. Alright,
But
cool.
yeah. What about you?
I'm trying to flip this question I asked back to me. I have written short stories. I have never really aspired to
Okay.
write a full novel. I have an idea. There's a dream I had a couple years ago, a while ago now. I told my husband about it, and we have collectively brainstormed different things. So he's great at helping me with that kind of stuff of like plotting. So I have an
Uh-huh.
idea for a book. I have yet to. It's not left my brain yet. Is the problem? So it's still up there, figuring itself out. One day I'll get it onto sticky notes and then eventually onto an actual page at some point. But I think I would be a
Is it
plotter.
fantasy? Is
It's like a
it
sci-fi fantasy.
like okay.
I don't know yet if it's
Series? Would
romantasy
you
or not. It's a series. I think it's
Okay.
a trilogy
Okay.
in my mind. It would be a trilogy.
Okay.
'Cause those are my favorite to read. I love a good trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'd
But
have to agree.
that's all I can give away because that's all I really know about it. I have like the one sequence, but the problem is if I give that sequence away, I think it's a major spoiler of like the whole everything that's happening with it.
Mhm.
So yeah. But
We'll just see when it comes out.
at this rate, we're behind the curve at this rate. As when that would be. But yeah, that's what I've got. Not a whole lot.
Okay. Okay. So, my question to you is, what is a song that if you hear it, you instantly just start breaking out and like singing and just can't stop?
Like a new song or an old song, or it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Man, I like a lot of genres of music and I like a lot of songs. So I feel like for me, if I'm vibing at the grocery store with the playlist and we're like 80s and 90s, I'll sing to that while I'm grocery shopping. Like whatever comes on.
Okay.
It's not limited to. Lately it's been K-pop Demon Hunters because they've just like completely taken over
Yes.
everything. But also, you know, I I will sing if I know it, I'll probably sing it because I do enjoy a good
Okay.
vibe. So the first thing that came to mind though was K-pop Demon Hunters. Like immediately
Yes, that's always in our
Golden
house
popped
too.
into my head and I was like, gosh, because it's just taken over. It just has. And I
Uh-huh.
just know with Halloween coming up that we're gonna see so many
My daughter is going to be roomy
of
already.
course. I love
I
it.
told her, I'm like, I need to plot out your hair. Like, I need to
Yeah.
figure out how to do that. So we need to practice beforehand.
Yes, do this
And I need to
purple
know if I
braided
need
hair.
to
Yeah.
get fake hair. I got the purple dye. I need to know if I need to get fake
Oh, you
extensions.
do. Yeah,
So
you do. Definitely. For it to be thick
probably to make
and
it
to go
fuller.
all the way yeah.
Yeah.
To go all the way down
Yeah.
the way Roomies does, yeah. Girl, get
Hmm.
you that tie-in. Yeah.
So yeah, no, she's roomy. Her song isn't golden. She likes the more aggressive songs.
Oh,
Like she
takedown?
likes
She's a takedown
takedown. And
girl? Oh,
then
geez.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She'll just start chanting that. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. Who we
okay.
fighting, girl?
Yeah, all
Can
right.
we chill?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay, so for me, I guess I'm also in the same boat in terms of like I'll listen to any genre, but like I'm always because last week you had asked if I was a Swiftie.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, but I'm a believer. So I
Oh,
love Justin Bieber growing up.
okay.
So any like old school Justin, any old school Justin song, like I will just start vibing to.
Okay. I
And
did not know
all
this
of
about you.
them.
I think I knew a little bit, but I didn't really know it
Yeah.
was like that.
Hmm.
Like that. Okay.
I love Justin. Yeah, because I mean they were kind of popular at very similar times. In like 2008, 2009, they're getting their popularity as much and I lean more into Justin, his little hair flip.
Okay.
So, yeah, Baby, One Time. Yeah, any of his old stuff
Okay.
just takes me back to middle school, high school.
Yeah, they're not bad.
But I
I
know
like all
he
that like that all of it. Yeah, I'll sing all of them.
right.
Mhm. That's funny.
All right. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Next week, we're going to dive into the first book of a new series. We're going to cover a dark romance series. You might have heard of it. It's Lights Out by Navessa Allen. We're looking forward to dissecting this one with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we might have some special guests that are going to talk this phenomena that is Lights Out. And yeah, we're looking forward to dissecting this novel with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on The Silent Patient or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.